Welcome to the worst nightmare of all. Reality.
Explore the lesser-known stories of our unknown world. Join the pursuit of the paranormal with Ash and Greg.
Hi, I'm MF Thomas, the creator and host of the My Dark Path podcast. In every episode, I explore the fringes of history, science, and the paranormal based on my travels around the world. Episodes include a haunted hotel in Taiwan, murders in a home designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, UFO encounters in New England, and how the story of Frankenstein inspired the inventor of the pacemaker. So, if you geek out over these topics, you're among friends at My Dark Path. Listen on any podcast platform, visit mydarkpath.com, or see our episodes on YouTube. Thanks for listening and walking the dark paths of the world with me.
This week, we welcome Nick Gadman onto the show. A listener and fan of the show as well reached out to us to share some of his experiences, which he'll talk about. But first of all, thank you, Nick. Thanks for coming on and reaching out to us.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, guys. It's amazing to be inside the podcast.
Pleasure to
normally it's just in my ears, but now it's like I'm in a three-dimensional experience where I'm actually inside the podcast.
And we've been going backwards and forwards over the last few weeks about your experiences and about coming on to the podcast. And you've shared sort of some brief notes about what's been going on. And how you've got to where you are today and your thoughts on what everything is. And I'm being vague on purpose so that we can have the conversation and you can tell your experiences and how it's sort of shaped your way of thinking about things. So yeah, thanks for coming on. Do you want to go back to some UFO experiences you've had? And we'll start there and go forward and backwards and
yeah, I mean, so it's a strange realm that we're delving in at the moment. I came at this all of my life. I've been the type of person that I don't believe in God, but I don't disbelieve in God because I can't prove that God doesn't exist. I don't believe in ghosts, but I can't disbelieve in ghosts because I don't, and I just wanted to get on with my life. I'm a lot more of a kind of skeptical scientific person. I like to read The Guardian, The Independent. I like to read scientific. I'm a very practical person.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, think that the paranormal and the ufology is flights of fancy. Maybe it's just the realm of imagination, but there is not a scientific there's not a nailed down approach to it. And I think a lot of people just get on with their lives. When I was a kid, when I grew up in the 70s and 80s and I loved science fiction and all that. But then I kind of stopped dreaming and I stopped wondering and I became a very boring kind of practical person until the lockdown, May 2020. It just got, I kind of pushed everything back. And I was very skeptical and very, I don't know what the word is. Like I said, even though I give credence to people and give respect to people who have a religion, it's not for me. But when I was sat down by the River Mersey in the lockdown, and I was walking in lockdown, and I looked up in the sky, and there was I thought it was a satellite up in the sky, and it was actually a metal object. And then I suddenly realized that this metal object couldn't be a satellite because it was literally it couldn't have been more than a mile high. It was really low down in the sky, and it was a metal ball, and it had no flight controls, no flight surfaces. It didn't have any propellers, no ailerons, no nothing. It was a metal ball. Now, I can tell you right now that these metal balls are about 2 to 3 feet in diameter, but I did not know it was 2 to 3 feet in diameter at that time because you sat there in the middle of the day. It was 12 noon, 12:30, clear blue sky, metal object in the sky going up and down. There's no basis of comparison for objects in a clear blue sky. people say like, why don't you take a photo of the UFO? Well, like, here's the basis of comparison. You can't have a basis of comparison for a clear blue sky. Your camera can't even take pictures. If you ever tried to take a picture of an aeroplane in the sky, it just comes out like a dot. So
Yeah.
anyway, this thing was like hovering. It went up and down, and it's a metal ball and it's spinning. And I couldn't tell whether it was intermittent, whether it was either emitting light or reflecting light. It was just really weird. You know, people keep banging on about drones. Oh, yeah, no, you must have seen a drone. No. When you see an object that is clearly otherworldly, you know it's otherworldly. I don't understand how anybody would mistake something like that. This thing is like a metal ball. It's spinning. It's got no propellers. It's got no propulsion. And and I was watching it for 15 minutes. Literally for 15 minutes. It was like... it must have been about a mile above my head, and it dropped down to maybe half a mile. It'd go up to a mile and then drop back down to half a mile and moved, like nothing I've ever seen before.
I don't know if you've saw the congressional hearings this week, and so the first video footage that they showed was of a spherical metal object going past the plane, and there was a still they showed of it, and that was almost... sounds like the same sort of size and kind of object that you mentioned. So I don't know if you've seen that footage and whether that was something similar to what you saw or...
I did see that footage. I didn't take a photograph. I took a photograph the second time I saw these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you know what? When exactly what you're saying, it was right. It was almost identical. So anyway, so I'm watching this thing hovering up and down, and I remember like my neck started hurting, and the reason why my neck started hurting is I didn't realize, because I thought it was stationary in one place, but it had actually moved from one portion of the sky to the other portion of the sky. So I turned around and looked up and went, oh right, it's kind of moved over, it's moved a little bit. But when I turned around to adjust myself, I realized there was another one over there. It was like a mile away. But this one was just literally, it wasn't even rotating or anything like the one that I'd seen. The one I'd seen, like I said, was going from a mile, half a mile, half a mile, up, down, levitating in space. There is no aircraft on this planet that does that. And anyway, so I turned around and I noticed that there was another one over there. So, that's weird. And when I realised it was moving across the other way, it was in tandem with another craft that was over there, about a mile away. And then once the one I've been watching, it went in tandem, and then they both moved in proportion, and they moved in formation and went away. So I thought, oh wow, that's amazing. So I got up and I knew I'd seen an alien spacecraft. Whether it's, look, if it's interdimensional, whatever you want to look, I don't want to split hairs. This thing was not of this earth. What I saw, it was clearly not of this earth, or not of this dimension, or not this whatever. So I walked down by the river, come back, got to the bottom of the Mersey, and I was actually trying to follow them. I went to follow I want to follow the aliens. And I didn't think I'd see him again. And I didn't see him again. But when I come back out the Mersey, at the bottom of the industrial estate, I saw something else. There was this giant metal egg above Stockport town centre, and my stomach turned when I saw these probes. I was like, they were funny. The probes were funny, right? Because they were spinning and they were funny. But the giant metal egg was not funny. My stomach turned when I saw that. And there was just something ominous about it. And I don't mean horrible. I don't mean like evil or anything like that. The reason my stomach turned is because it was big. I think it was occupied. It was big enough to be occupied. It was at least the size of a transit van. And it was just hovering over Stockport town centre. Now, these spinning metal probes were one thing, but the giant metal egg was another. And my stomach turned when I saw the metal egg. And here's the thing about the metal egg that is really interesting. I cannot describe to you how white it was. it was like a metallic white that I cannot describe. We don't have this color. It's between like pure metal chrome and white, but it's like a cross between pure white and pure chrome. But we don't have that color. But that's what this thing was, and it just hovered there. I mean, and to me, it looked egg shaped. I mean, it may have been a Tic Tac. I don't know. I'm not jumping on a bandwagon. But I'm saying from the angle I saw, it was egg shaped. But my stomach, I was just like, whoa.
So was this one making any movements or anything like the previous ones were?
No, this thing just hovered. And that's what was so weird about it, because like I said, it was about the size of a transit van. Like, think of a white transit van, like in the sky, but an egg.
Did you get the impression that anybody else saw it?
No, this was right in the middle of lockdown when
Yeah.
we weren't supposed to be out for more than an hour. Whoops. I'd gone out for an hour and a half. Whoops. No. Whoops. Yeah, Partygate. Don't get me started on that one. But no, I don't think there's anything wrong with people going for a walk down by the river. You know what I mean? You're not going to spread COVID by sitting by the river.
Did you see anybody else out at the time? You're not grassing anybody else.
No, but I mean, my first thought was like, it's got to be a Mylar balloon. But who's creating Mylar balloons at this in the middle of lockdown? When nothing's open, nothing is open, nowhere is open. But his fingers just hovering there. You know what I mean? It didn't care that it was just hovering there. But I mean, I saw them again. So the second time I saw them, that was May 28th, 2020. The second time I saw these things was June the 5th, 2021. And basically, so here's a geography. Like, the River Mersey runs down through Stockport. And basically, you know, Stockport Viaduct is like, probably should explain it to the listeners. Stockport Viaduct is the world's largest viaduct. It's got the most bricks. It's a stunning feat of engineering. But basically, it's like there's a big dip in the middle of Stockport, and the viaduct covers the dip to take the trains from Stockport to Manchester. And the Mersey runs through that dip. But I think there's like 4 million bricks or something ridiculous in Stockport Viaduct. And that's roughly where I saw the egg hanging over the sky. So, and the geography is important. I'm not procrastinating, because basically I was down by the river, at the bottom of the river. The next time I saw these things was about was June the 5th, 2021, and I was like at the top of the hill. So I live in Shaw Heath, and it's important to the story because basically every time I see these UFOs, they get closer and closer to my house.
Right.
They've started to come closer and closer to me and interact with me since I've been seeing these things. So the first time I saw them was in Heaton, Mersey. That was like 3 miles away. The next time I see them was down the road. It's like 10 minutes walk away. And I saw a drone fly over my head. And when I saw this drone fly over my head, I was like, all right. Because I kept thinking about the UFOs. Once you've seen a UFO, you're always thinking about UFOs. So, oh no, it's just a drone. And then I carried on walking, and these metal orbs were on the back of the back entrance to Stockport Station. Now, what they were doing this time when I saw them, there was 2 of them again. You know, when I said I saw the one and then they met up and he flew in formation. This time I saw them again. Now, here's the weird thing. I mean, straight away I'm going to think, is it a seagull? Is it a carrier bag? Is it a Mylar balloon? I'm a very practical person. I'm not going to think UFO. No, the last thing I'm going to think is UFO, because I like nature. I'm a practical person. I don't believe in stuff like that. You know, I'm very, very practical. I'm just a practical, scientific, rational person. But I'm watching these 2 metal orbs. And again, like first one, don't know whether I elaborate, but the way that they were characteristic was they blinked intermittently. It was like this. It's like 1.5 second blink. It's not 1 or 2 seconds. It's somewhere between 1 and 2 seconds. It's like blink, blink, blink. There's a certain characteristic that is like that is off the beat. And here's the thing about it. Again, the second time I saw them on June the 5th, it's a sunny day. There is no cloud. There's hardly any clouds in the sky. It's not the night. I'm not like watching blinking lights in the sky. I'm not confusing these. It's around midday. The first time I saw them in May 2020, it was midday. Again, I saw them midday, June 5th, 2021. And so much closer to the ground that I could actually start seeing them, and I could actually start seeing characteristics of them. They weren't like perfectly formed metal balls. They were like they had indentations. They were like imperfect spheres, but they were metal. They were constructed metal. They started off like imagine a turntable. Like I was going to say like I was going to alienate the kids, but apparently we're selling more vinyl these days than we did back in the 90s, aren't we? And back in the 80s and 70s. So right now it's like I'm not going to alienate the youth audience by talking about vinyl because they'll probably actually know what we're talking about better than us. But basically, if you imagine a piece of vinyl, right? If you imagine like if you put a piece of vinyl, like you put an album on 33 RPM, yeah, and you get a marble and you put one marble on one side of the and one marble on the other side, and then you put it on a 33 RPM, and they rotate, and you've got these basically. So how do I describe this to an audio audience? You've got two metal spheres that are operating maybe 100 feet apart, and they are rotating in tandem and moving in formation, where they are basically doing a dance with each other, and they're doing this formation. And what happens is when they're doing this slow formation over Stockport towns, and probably about maybe 500, 600, 700 feet above the top. They're really, really low. And that's when I realized that how big they were. They were 2 to 3 feet across, because I could start seeing them in concept, right? When I saw them down by the river, they were against the blue sky. I had no basis of comparison. But now I'm up on a hill and I'm near the train station and near cars and these people and the train and cars and stuff. I can start seeing a basis of comparison, and I can see these balls at like two, maybe 3 meters across, and they are clearly probes, but some sort of artificial intelligence, because they are, on a plateau. They are working with each other. They're flying around with each other, and then they suddenly bend on a 30-degree angle. So for audio listeners, imagine like your turntable, your platter goes on a 30-degree angle, and they carry on doing that synchronized dance of moving round in a circle. Now, once they didn't stop doing round in a circle. They moved apart, and then they started flying at right angles. So they're doing squares across. They mapped out, they moved wider and moved further across the town centre and did right angles. It was literally right angles. These metal balls doing right angles. What is that? What are they doing? Are they mapping out? Are they just dancing? It was like they were playing with each other. They didn't seem to be doing a logical function. They seemed to be dancing. Mm-hmm. They were just having. There was these metal AI probes dancing with each other, having fun.
I've got a question for you.
Go on.
I've got a question. So this is twice you've seen those over the course of like a 12-month period.
Yeah.
Obviously, some people don't get to see any or experience anything like this in their lifetime, and some people might experience it once. So to see it twice in that kind of time period, do you feel like you were meant to see them, or that they were there to show you themselves, or you were just randomly lucky that you've just seen it twice?
First time I saw it, I waved at it and I said, wait, I'm here. And then I completely think that they were there for me. And the reason why I don't want to say this is because people will be like, oh, why is this guy talking all of this nonsense? He's, he wants attention and stuff. I don't want any attention, right? You know what? If anything, right, I'm actually, I suffer from anxiety and depression. I don't like attention. A lot of times it's like, I'll have phases where I can turn my phone off for 5 days and I don't want to talk to anybody because I get depressed and I get anxiety. I don't want to talk to people.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm talking about this is because it's really, really profound. It's dead interesting because it's fundamental to our being, and this is why I'm so grateful that you've given me the opportunity to talk about this, because the only reason why I want to talk about this is because it has to be said. I've had these weird experiences. I don't want any attention from it. I don't want nothing. It has to be said. We need, as a people, we need to get in touch with our souls. We need to get in touch with something, because we're not there yet, you know. So yeah, sorry, I'm going on a bit of a drift there, but basically, yeah, these things actually started interacting with me on a personal level, and I'll tell you why I can guarantee that this had happened. I kept seeing them. They kept popping up. They kept popping up as like an intermittent thing where there would be the here and there. And then the third time I saw them was even closer to my house. The first time I saw them was like 3 miles away. The second time I saw them was about half a mile away. The third time I saw them was about a quarter of a mile away. And it was like right there. And I was basically, I looked up and I was like, whoa. It was clearly there to say, I'm here. What are you going to do about it? And I was like, whoa, I don't know. This was the third time. So what I did was I walked down the road a little bit and I thought, do you know what I'm going to do? You're there. You're clearly interacting with me. I'm going to take a video. What happened when I took a video? I took my phone out of my pocket. This thing was like northerly. Seriously, like northerly over there. And it was just hanging there. So and I was walking down the road and it stayed there. And I was talking to it in my head. Like, oh, yeah, I know you. And I can't explain it. It's like in your head, you're like, I know you. Hello again. There's this kind of familiarity because there's a thing there. You've seen it before. So it's like, okay. So I walked down the road and thought, hey, yeah, brilliant. Oh, you're good. And I pulled my phone out of my pocket and I started to take a picture of it. This thing went from north to east in like 8 or 9 seconds. And I was trying to get a video of it because UFO Thinker, do you know the UFO Thinker podcast? Frank, great guy. You know what I mean? I kept talking to him about this. I was like, you know, this mad stuff is going on. So I was basically, I had an interaction with him and I'm telling him about this stuff. And I thought, right, I need to try and document this. But as soon as I tried to get a video of this, it moved. And it really did not like me taking a video of it. And I went on Google Maps a few months ago and I started mapping it out. And basically, I think that this thing was probably about a mile high in the sky, but it went from a northerly direction to an easterly direction. But if it travelled from the direction that I think it was in, and to me, it, like when I was trying to film it, like you're trying to film this on your phone, and you're going like, oh, I just can't get it. And it seems ridiculous and whatever. But I calculated this thing actually moved at 1,000 miles an hour. Now, to me, it looked like it was slow because it just went from north to east and it just went for like 9 seconds. And that doesn't seem like that big a deal when you're looking at it. But I'm thinking, well, it's only... Well, when I did the calculation, it was literally, it must have been traveling 1,000 miles an hour. Because to move 3 miles in 9 seconds, you have to travel 1,000 miles an hour. And this thing did not want to be filmed. And here's the thing. Me and these things had this relationship where they would just hover over me and sparkle at me and interact with me. But as soon as I started to try and film it, nope.
I just want to bring it back a little bit to when you've been describing these objects, you've called them probes a couple of times. Just wanted to ask sort of what you meant by a probe. Like a probe to me would be like you send it out first, like
scout type shit.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for, like a scout type shit, like a probing shit. So is that what you mean when you call them a probe, or is it something else?
If yeah, I mean, because the first time I saw them was in Heaton, Mersey, and I was sat by the river, and they were there, and then I saw the egg. And I like, and I tell you what, when I see these metal objects, they don't freak me out. There's nothing about the metal objects that freaks me out at all. But like I said, when 20 minutes later, when I saw the egg, I freaked out because my stomach turned and something in my gut told me that that was habited. The things that I was seeing were just metal balls. They were just, they were 2 to 3 foot wide metal balls. They were clearly probes. There weren't anything there was nothing intelligent or animalistic about them. But like I said, that they seemed to precursor the white egg that I saw. And I kind of, I'm just randomly pulling it out of my head, but I kind of think that they were a probe for the metal egg. I think the metal balls precursor the metal egg, and then the metal egg could come down, and then does that make sense? The metal egg could then come down, and the people in the metal egg would know that they weren't going to get blown out of the sky or whatever. That's my gut feeling. That's my gut feeling, because when I saw the metal egg, my stomach turned. I mean, it wasn't. Look, it's not. I'm not a scaredy cat. My stomach turned, man, when I saw that, and I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of the metal egg. It was just an instinct. Whoa, there's something heavy about that.
So you've been having these experiences and seeing these objects repeatedly, and apparently getting closer to your home. You believe they're showing themselves to you because whatever reason. What are you thinking at this moment in time?
Well, the first time I saw them was like a year before, and I didn't expect to see anything again. And then when I saw it like a year later, it was like, oh my God, because it was really cool. The great thing about it was like that they started doing this mad display. The next time I saw it, when I tried to film it, and it just went nah and did one, which was interesting. I'd seen a few other things, and I'm not going to talk about those because I can't 100% verify that they are fact. But I saw a lot of weird things go on. The final thing that I will say that is fact, and this is one thing that I think is crazy, is the next time I saw one was outside work in Ancoats. So now that's weird, because it's one thing to see them in Stockport where I live, but then to see it in Ancoats. But here's the weird thing about it, right? I went for a walk around the block. Like, I work in the Brunswick Mill Studios. Like, I'm not plugging the place. I'm just saying I work in the Brunswick Mill Studios. It's big rehearsal studio, big mill in the middle of Ancoats, right? And I went for a walk around the block. It was a sunny day. Again, it was 4 p.m. It was literally 4 p.m. I went for a walk around the block. When I came back round to the front, I saw the intermittent flashing of what the metal spheres did, and I could see that from behind the cloud, and I was stood there in front of the building going, oh yeah, nice one, right? But they're coming back. Okay. And there's an Australian guy who works for us. He's like an electrician. I was like, Milton, come downstairs. He's like, what, is it UFOs? Because I'd been banging on about UFOs for weeks because I kept seeing UFOs. He was like, I was like, UFOs. Yeah. He was like, what, you seen a UFO? I was like, yeah, come downstairs. So he was like, right, he decided he wanted to come downstairs. Now, I did not expect this. When he come down, the flashing light, like I said, the metal spheres and they rotate and the flashing lights. This thing came out from behind the cloud, and it was a flashing light originally. Then all of a sudden it mutated into this giant metallic jellyfish. It was like a metallic jellyfish, and it was like morphing and wading into different shapes. And Milton saw it, and he was like, "No way!" And I tell you what, right? You can Google this shape-shifting UFO. I can't remember what channel it's on, but somebody a week before saw the same thing. They filmed it from a flight from Germany, shape-shifting UFO. They filmed it from a flight in Germany, and I saw that same thing. And I'd not seen the video before. I saw the video afterwards, because when you see UFOs, you start Googling stuff and you're like, what's this all about? And I tell you what it was like. From my experience, it was like the T-1000 but a jellyfish, and then it turned into a trapezium or a rhomboid shape like a diamond, and then it morphed into this shape that was like an angel. It was like an angel. Like a little wire, like an angel putting its wings up in the air like that, like a blonde-haired silver angel putting its wings in the air, and then it melded back down into a jellyfish, and it flew across Manchester City Centre. And again, me and Milton watched this thing for 10 minutes. It's like we're not hallucinating. This is 4 o'clock on a clear day. There's no cloud, hardly any cloud in the sky. This thing just moving across the sky like that. It was just bizarre. But like I said, there is a video of it on YouTube, shape-shifting UFO. And that was the last time that I saw these things. But the weird thing is it's gone from like those metal probes into like suddenly turned into like this metallic jellyfish and stuff. It's like what's that? What's that about?
So it seems like it knows you're there, and it obviously knows where you're going to be potentially, because it seems to be following you, or they seem to be following you. Do you get the sense that they're trying to communicate with you? Do you get that kind of feeling at all, or do they just, is it a visual thing?
I was reaching out to them.
Yeah.
But I tell you one thing, that when I was at work, over that period, there was like a 6-week period where I was at work, and it's a huge mill where I work, and I lock up these like 70 rooms. When I was locking up, I always felt like I was being watched. I always felt very, very nervous. There was a weird paranormal element to it where I was kind of scared. Suddenly, out of the blue, I was scared.
On that note, then, have you paranormal experiences in the past or currently or after? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, this is where I link everything together. The first time I saw a UFO, I saw a black triangle when I was 10.
Yeah.
Now, here's the funny thing. I used to think all these things were separated, but I don't think they are. I think they're very much connected. I think the paranormal, spirit, fairies, goblins, angels, demons, God, poltergeists, aliens, all connected. And from my personal experiences, I'm telling you, they are connected. Yeah, I am 100. Like 2 years ago, I didn't care about any of this stuff. Right now, I am telling you, this stuff is all connected, and we really need to rethink our paradigm, and the way that we look at the universe. We really need to get in. Anyway, so back to your question. I was 10 years old. I saw a black triangle. When I was a kid, it was like there was a fleet of UFOs hovering over the street. They weren't like a fleet of UFOs. They were basically like 7 stars. But I'd been taught as a kid, that's the plough, that's that. But when I'm looking at these stars, I was like, there was a boomerang of stars across the sky that went from literally miles. And I looked up and that's a fleet of UFOs. And people were just like, yeah, whatever. But in my head, the word fleet of UFOs stuck in my head. And all the other kids went home. And I carried on looking up at the sky. And the house was a cul-de-sac, and there was a massive field on the end of the street. They all went to bed. I stood on the street, and I was stood there half an hour later looking up. I want to see a UFO, want to see a UFO, want to see a UFO. And what do I see? I see a UFO. Now, living in Stockport, I'm not an idiot, right? We have, we're right near the airport. And you know what air traffic looks like. You know what an airplane looks like. You know the air traffic and all that. Now, I was looking at something that was coming across the sky, but it looked like an aeroplane because it had like 4 lights, or what I thought was 4 lights. But it was actually it actually turned out to be a black triangle. But I was looking at it and I was like, why is that coming over the trees from like south to north? Because planes coming into land at Manchester Airport go from an easterly to a westerly direction. That's just the way that the flight path is. And you know, especially, and here's the thing, right? If you live near an airport, you understand what helicopters and planes look like. But I'm looking at this thing and I'm just like, that's okay. I'm thinking it's a plane, but it's like, why is that coming over it? But it wasn't. It was like this black triangle. It had 4 lights, right? And it kind of looked like an airplane. You could, I think, you know, you could be, you know, the reason why I'm getting confused about this is because when you see something like that, it's so out of this world, but it so makes sense. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. Even though you see it and you're just like, that's not real, that's out of this world. It's like the metal spheres I've been talking about hovering over, like, the metal spheres look like Sputnik. You know what I mean? They look so mundane, but they are anti-gravitic. That's what's otherworldly about them, because it's like the basic. It's almost as if something has said, "How can we interfere with how can we interfere with this race and look after them look out upon this race in a way that they will not know we're here." And it's as if like they're taking Sputnik and thinking like we'll not notice Sputnik flying around in the air. It's a really weird thing, and it's the same thing with black triangles. You see them, and you're like, well, even though it's completely out of this world, you're like, there's something so that makes sense about it. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, anyway, this thing hovered above me, and it stopped perfectly still right above my head, and it started, like, all the lights started dancing, and now I never understood why this was, but apparently I've heard a few recently. I've heard a few people talk about a similar thing. Jazz Shaw, the journalist Jazz Shaw, he said that he saw a black triangle, and he said that like lights disconnected from the triangle and started moving around. And I was like, no way, I've never heard that before. That's what I saw in the mid-80s. This is like 1985. But basically, the lights came off. Basically, there was 4 lights on the triangle, top, front, back, in the middle. Yeah. But it was like the triangle just stopped, and all the lights started moving in this geometric pattern, and it was so weird. And I just stood looking at it for about a minute, and then all the lights went back into the place, and it moved off silently, and it was just like, I wanted to see a UFO. I saw a UFO. So now, here's the funny thing is, the reason why I want to frame things in a certain pattern is because once you start researching this stuff, you start realizing how it all links together. I didn't realize that in the same time that I saw a black triangle, I was visited by a woman in my room. This woman appeared in my room, and she wasn't of this earth, if you know what I mean. I thought she was my mum, and I just said hiya. I turned around and said hiya to her. It was just like, she's basically a shadow person, right? And I turned around, I looked at her, but I remember seeing this big smile on her face. She's basically a complete shadow, but I could see the smile. But how do you see a smile in a shadow? You get me? It's like you can. It's like features are defined by light. But I don't remember seeing a smile. All I remember is seeing a silhouette. But I remember feeling a smile emanate from this person. So I looked at her and I thought she was my mum, and I went, hiya. And I turned around and looked at the door and waited for my mum, because I thought like my mum was going to like do my clothes, get out of the room. And she didn't go. She didn't leave the room. And then I started getting a bit freaked out, because I was like, well, where's she gone? So I turned around and she wasn't there. And I thought, okay, that's strange. So I turned around, and it's not a sleep paralysis thing, this. It's like, all of a sudden, it was like the room was encloaked in darkness. It was like, I remember like, I was waiting for her to go, because there was a light outside the bedroom door. So I was basically waiting for the door to close and waiting for her to go, or something like that. And I was, when she got, I would know. Anyway, that didn't happen, and I was like lying there, and all of a sudden it was like I kind of clicked onto the fact that the light of the door wasn't there anymore, and everything was dark, and there's like this feeling of electricity in the air, and it's like bzzz. It's like the room's made of electricity. I just cannot describe it, but everything is real but not real. all of a sudden I realised that there wasn't a light outside the door anymore and everything was in darkness. And then I could hear this sound of two dogs. And I could feel, it wasn't the sound, it was the feeling of a presence in the room. And I could feel there was like beings in the room that should not be there. And in my mind, they were like dogs. And they were breathing heavily. And I remember just like burying myself under the covers. And I remember it went on for about 10 minutes, and I buried myself under the covers. And I don't know what happened, but I passed out in fear. And that was it. But here's the takeaway: the woman in the room shouldn't have been there. The two dogs at the end of the bed should not have been there. The electricity, the palpable feeling of something should not have been there. It was so terrifying. Like all my life, I sleep under a duvet now. I can't not sleep without a duvet. I wasn't the only person visited by that woman and two dogs. Apparently, a girl who was a year younger than me was visited by that woman and the two dogs around the same time.
So what was your sister's recollection of what happened? Did you tell her about it at the time? Or
I told my sister years later, but for some reason, like the girl at number 17 was my sister's age, and her older sister was a year younger than me. We have a brother that's in between. When I'm 75, my sister's 81, and my brother's 89. So my brother's 79. So I don't know how she learned that, but basically I sent her a message the other week and I said, oh yeah, you know. And she said, yes. She said, this person down the road. She said she talked about the woman and the two dogs visiting her in the room. And you know what's really weird about that? And I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I think it's interesting how you know the Pascagoula incident? It was a woman and two metal robots. I'm not saying it's the same thing, but I'm just saying that there is a similarity. The fact that she was visited by a woman and two dogs, and I was visited by a woman and two dogs, it's like, you know, it's a screen memory thing. You know, Ash, hear me out on it. The only reason why I'm talking about this now is because you had Dave Hodgkin talking about the screen memories.
Yeah, he's been on the guest on the podcast talking about it.
Exactly. Yeah. But it was when I heard his thing that the penny dropped, and I was just like, oh, okay. You know, there's something to I've experienced that. Do you get me?
Yeah, definitely. So is that what you think that was? Or do you have any other like sort of thoughts about who the woman and the dogs were?
On all of this, I don't know what any of this is. But what I'm saying is it's a weird connection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the thing is that I'm not going to theorize and I'm not going to give you an answer, but what I'm going to say is like if the girl at the end of the road had the woman and two dogs, I had the woman and two dogs, but I saw the black triangle. The black triangle hovered over me when I was stood outside her house when the black triangle hovered over me. So it might not have just been scanning me; it might have been scanning the whole area. I mean, I'm really speculating. I'm really speculating, drawing lines between pulling the Pascagoula incident into this because that was a woman and two robots. But what I'm saying is, it's interesting that there's a female entity and two subordinates.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm saying is I'm really reaching. But what I'm saying is I was in a situation where there was a female entity and two subordinates that interacted with me, but they also interacted with the other with a girl down the road. But they didn't interact with my brother or my sister or the younger sister. They basically interacted with 10 or 11-year-olds. Like the girl they interacted with, who said that she had the same experience. She was the same age as me. So why didn't the younger kids or the older kids experience this? They didn't. It was a certain specific age group. It was 10 or 11-year-olds.
Did you get any kind of feeling at the time as to why this woman and the two subordinates were there? Did you get any kind of feeling that they were there to like pass a message on, whether they were to take you somewhere or to provide a message for you? Or...
No, I just thought they were ghosts because I didn't have any experience of any of this. So, but now I'm starting to realize, maybe they're just like interdimensional.
Yeah.
I didn't even know anything about interdimensional beings. I didn't even know interdimensional was a thing. But I wrote it in an email to somebody that interdimensional was what I felt was going on.
After this happened, did you speak about it with anybody, or
Yeah, I told my mum.
what did she say? Did she believe you?
Yeah, she said, yeah, when you were a child, she said, I don't know if it was her or my grandmother, her or my grandma. She said, yeah, one night we woke up and there was a gypsy woman. I'm sorry for the parlance. I don't know whether gypsies. I don't Romany gypsy. I don't mean it to be an offensive term, but I just mean it. Like this was 1985. I spoke to my mum in 1985, and she said the gypsy woman. So I'm just speaking in the parlance. So yeah, but she said, yeah. She said, yeah, when you were a baby, we kept seeing this gypsy woman stood over your cot, looking over you, and my mum didn't mind that because she was my mum used to astral project and all of that stuff. She was very free spirited. So when I told her, I woke up and saw it. She said, "Don't worry about it." She basically tried to calm me down, and she said, "Look, they're just spirit. They are the spirit. It's the universe. It is what it is."
I just want to quickly go back to, because you mentioned when you saw the fleet of UFOs outside the number 17, that it was scanning you.
Yeah.
You sort of explain that a little bit more, because you don't really...
Yeah, well, what it was like, basically, so the triangle has got the front, the bottom left, the bottom right, and then the light in the middle, right in the middle of all them. They basically all started moving around in this weird kind of S-like pattern. I can't explain this S-like pattern, but it was like, the waltzers or like the teacup rides. When you see on a fairground ride and you all go in those like kind of circular motion. That's what the lights did. They all just did that kind of.
So what makes you think? So you said it was scanning you. I think that's what these motions were. Was the craft or whatever it was scanning you for information, or why?
Yeah. I say scanning. I mean, what else am I going to say? It's just a gut feeling.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: is like a lot of the things I'm going to say about a lot of these things that like I've started to embrace it in a way that I'm just going to say like, yeah, the communicating and interacting and it's scanning, because basically you've just got this weird gut feeling that this is what's happening. Don't know how to explain it any other way. It's like once these things are there, you interacting with them. They're not there by accident. They're communicating with you, and they're communicating with you on a level that we don't understand. They're not saying, "Hello, my name is Bob. I'm from Zeta Reticuli." They're not doing that. What they're doing is they're doing this different thing. But the thing is, in your gut, you go, right. So this is why I didn't take photographs on the first instances when I saw him, because I just wanted to have an interaction with him. Why would it's like imagine if like all of a sudden like you had an epiphany, you're there, and like Jesus just comes walking out of a bonfire, like, "Hey, Jesus." You're not going to start taking selfies and pictures of Jesus. You're going to like, "Wow, Jesus," you know what I mean? Second coming. Enjoy it. Enjoy the time when you're having it. I mean, and I've seen these UFOs so many times, and I'm not taking photographs of them because I'm having an epiphany. This is brilliant. I'm communicating with interdimensional, ultra-dimensional, extraterrestrial things that are not of this, like of our understanding. This is amazing. I'm not going to start taking selfies.
Yeah.
Come on, I don't need proof. I'm enjoying it. Look, and here's the thing, right? And here's the thing about why I want to come on this podcast and talk. I don't care who believes me or not. If you don't believe me, fine, right? Nobody has to believe my story. I don't care. It's my story. I've got a great story. If you want to listen to it, listen to it. If you don't, fine, whatever. You know what I mean? But I have seen things that you people would not believe. You know what I mean? And I just want to tell you about it because it's fascinating.
Definitely.
And like you mentioned about the you don't want to get your phone out because you're in the moment. There was a sighting in Salford with a lady who saw these strange lights in Salford, and she saw them for like over 5 minutes. And she was asked, "Well, why didn't you take your phone and get a picture?" He said because it's beautiful. She didn't want to like look down, mess with her phone, and it's gone. She was just in the moment. A
What
life
an
changing
epiphany.
moment for her. Yeah. So the last thing she was thinking about was getting her phone out. She was in.
Why
the
do
moment,
I have to prove it to you that I've
Absolutely.
seen this thing? No, it's ridiculous. People who don't have these epiphanies and don't have these experiences want you to prove it to them. I don't care. Look, there are some great people out there, and it is an interesting one. Like John Greenwald, the Black Vault,
Yeah.
Fire Request, brilliant. Love the guy. He's never going to get anywhere doing that though, because at the end of the day, he's all about the black and white and he's all about the paper. He needs to take a leap outside of his world, because the thing is, fire is never going to get him to the truth. Because at the end of the day, the phenomenon requires you to take a leap of faith, and if you're not going to take a leap of faith, you're never going to figure it out. You're never going to figure it out. 2 years ago, I didn't give a care about any of this. Any of it. Now I will believe anything you tell me, because it's all on the line now. Now for me, it's like, oh yeah, right, go speak. It's all on the table because I get it. Because the thing is I've tuned into something. I've figured something out. I see it. I see it. I see it. I can see it. I understand the bzzz, there's a frequency we need to get on to.
Your mind's been opened.
Do you think that could be the reason why there will never be sort of full disclosure from the governments, etc.?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
it's too black and white, and people are not prepared to take the leap.
Not
of
because
faith,
it's
like
black
you
and
just
white, because it's so interdimensional. It's crazy. Let's go to my next crazy, right? And this is one. I think this is one that Greg's gonna love, right? This is the one for Greg, right? Mordeth Homes. Mordeth Homes, right? Mordeth Homes was a hospital for incurables. Now I don't know what that means, but basically it was a big mansion in the middle of in a huge expanse of land, and it was like basically a golf course. But basically, for some reason, they turned it into a hospital for incurables, and I think horribly enough, I don't want to speculate, but hospital for incurables in the 1900s. That's really horrible, isn't it? And that's really worrying, isn't it? But anyway, so basically, this is a big mansion in the middle of a golf course, and on the back of it, the NHS and the Public Health Trust or whatever had built like more boiler rooms and more layers and stuff. And basically, what happened was they decided to decommission it in the 90s. The first love of my life, Natalie Dace. When I was a kid, when I was at school, we used to go there. She decided she wanted to be a journalist. What was really brilliant about somebody like that is she got us into the building, and this is a building that you can't get access to, but she got us access to. So we actually got access to. I actually wandered around Mordeth Homes in the mid-90s by Natalie Dace completely blagging the security, saying, "Oh, I'm a student. I'm doing a project. I'm doing this and doing that. Blah blah blah." It's a complete lie. She just wanted to get into the building, and because there was something about this building that was fantastic. And doors were like twice the size of a normal door because it was like this old, huge mansion. Anyway, so there's something about this place that I cannot explain. The fact that it was a hospital, maybe I think there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of agony going on in this building, and I think there's an imprint on this building that's going on. So fast forward a couple of years. It's actually being demolished. All of the back end, all of the new prefab hospital stuff that had been built post Victorian stuff it's being demolished. So we're still hanging about there, but basically it's in a state of absolute destruction. They're keeping the Victorian design, but they're getting rid of the 1900s design. Anyway, so we went to pick up a friend's girlfriend who lived in Burnage, right? And Mordeth Homes is in Burnage. We ended up hanging around on Mordeth Homes when it was being demolished, and something very, very strange happened. There was five of us. There was me, Julie, Paul, and there were two other people. The two other people I don't want to talk about, they were messing about with black magic and witchcraft at the time. And I'm not saying this is a part of this. I don't know. But they were messing about with stuff like... But they had a lot of angry interactions with people, and they actually felt like they were being psychically attacked by people. We're at Mordeth Homes. One thing that I remember started happening was outside of Mordeth Homes, the weather was very kind of normal, kind of Manchester weather. There was a breeze, there was this, that, and the other. But when we got to the home, it was like there was no climate, there was no temperature or anything. It was like we were in a bubble. And I remember, like, I don't know what happened, but I was like looking, all of the back had been excavated and destroyed. And I was looking under the ground. I'm kind of I'm an architect. I like old stuff. I'm like an architectural person. It's like I like looking at old stuff. So I'm like looking under the ground and going, oh, that's where the cart would have been to do and all that stuff. And anyway, but all of a sudden I can see this like this weird glint, and this weird glint is like talking to me, and I'm like looking at this. What? And then like one of the people says, "Who are these people walking around the outside of the perimeter?" And there's nobody walking outside the perimeter, but I'm looking at this glint, and then Paul said to me, he said, "I thought like there was a cat came out of the window, but he says, but then it turned into like a tentacle." And then the tentacle got bigger and bigger, and it became like this weird kind of spiral tentacle. And I'm looking at this glint under the ground, and this glint's like keeping me occupied. And then another person, I think Julie was saying, like she said, "Who's that person walking around the perimeter? Who's that person walking?" And what was going on in this building is everybody was being distracted by something, and whatever was going on in this building at that time. And I think maybe the fact that the building was being demolished at the time, it was really reaching out. But I think at the same time, maybe the fact that there was people who were messing about in black magic, like my friends were messing with black magic. I think it all came together. And anyway, I was this glint. I'm looking at this glint in the cellar, and it's talking to me. And it said, and it actually said to me, "If you turn your back on me, I will follow you." And that really freaked me out. And I turned around and then Julie's going, "Oh no, there's people walking around the building and stuff." And I like, right, we have got to go. We have to go. We have to go. We have to leave now. And we were just a bunch of kids, just like having a few beers, sitting on a mound. But we didn't realize that we were like in a zone where maybe because this thing is being demolished and stuff, that all of a sudden there's this energy being released, and the confluation of us 5 people being there at this one time was very kind of potent to this, very, very potent. Here's the thing, right? I realized, right, everybody get out of here. We're going to go, right? Let's go. It's such a weird thing to explain to people. We walked away from the building, and the paranormal activity was like there was shadow figures walking around, there was tentacles. What it was, it's like this. Let me try and put it into perspective. Everybody had their own distraction, is what I'm trying to say. Right? Like the glint was distracting me, the shadow person was distracting Julie, the tentacle was distracting Paul, and then the other things were distracting the 2 other people who I'm not going to talk about. But the thing is this massive energy was completely trying to divide us. And I just thought, get out of here. We've got to get out. So we get out, we go, we move. And one thing I realized that when we moved out of that place was like within like 30 meters or whatever of the building, there was no climate. There was no climate. It was like a temperate zone. I don't know how to explain it. It was like we were in a bubble. We were literally in a bubble. But we moved out and we got out. And when we got out of that thing, and we got out of that place, and as soon as we got to a certain point, I am not lying, right? There was this massive explosion about 50 feet above the house. Like this boom, this huge flash. And then the smoke was like an S shape, and it was like literally 50 feet above the house. It's like, you don't get lightning weather conditions. Lightning weather conditions exist in the atmosphere. They don't exist right above the house. And this thing said to me, if you turn your back on me, I will follow. It was like, and here's the funny thing, right? I literally walked to we went back to Levenshulme. I literally walked to Levenshulme, and I think it was 2 or 3 miles, but I literally walked backwards. I walked backwards for 3 miles because this thing had said that, and it's lightning flash above the house.
Don't blame you.
So, but and here's the caveat to that: it didn't like. After that, they had serious poltergeist activity in their house. After that, the people we went back to after that, they had like proper. Right, and I tell you how nasty this thing was, and people talk about the skinwalker thing, the sticky profile, or the what's it called?
The hitchhiker.
Hitchhiker, yeah. This thing followed us back, right? No, and it followed us back in a big way, right? They, I remember going back to that house. It's like, you could be sat that like. It's back in the mid-90s. We're a bunch of students, you know what I mean? We're grungy students, so we're like in our early 20s. But I remember like going upstairs. I could have been drunk, doing this, whatever. But as soon as I walked up those stairs, as soon as I went to the like second or third stair at the top, I would be scared out of my face, and I would not want to go into that bathroom. And that was after that stuff at Mordeth Homes. That thing came like it didn't stick to me because I literally walked backwards, so it couldn't follow me, but it latched onto one of the others. This is, I think it jumped onto me in 2014, and that's where we're going to go into the butterfly thing.
Pursuit of the Paranormal with Ash and Greg.